those West Coast motherfucker.
How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Welcome back to the channel for our latest podcast that does not have an official name, nor does it have an official logo, yet we're rolling. It is
But it
myself,
will next
Tyler.
week.
It will
It
next
will
week.
next week.
Yes, that is the goal next week. Myself, Wardy, that you guys know, that is the Joe Serralo, and we are without our beloved Anthony Reckers. He's currently dealing with an ailment, looking like One-Eye Willie out here. We wish him a speedy recovery.
You really just went for a wreck with the eye infection? Like, you really just went all in?
What?
My goodness.
What am I
you're
supposed to
foul.
hide?
That was foul.
I'm supposed to hide it?
Hey, isn't today like the 11-year anniversary of Rec going yard in the 13th inning at the Angels?
I hope it is.
No, I know it was today. I think it's 11 years, but it was April 12th, whatever year. Recker, extra innings, 13th. Obviously, it was the 13th inning. It's the only time he ever hit home runs was the 13th inning. He went deep at Angel Stadium, and that was the difference in a 7-6 game.
Beautiful. I did not know that today was the actual anniversary of that, so I commend you for knowing that. That's awesome. Did you see a stat today?
It was on Twitter. I tweeted about it, but you don't follow me, so I'll just go.
I do.
I'll go bleep myself.
Relax. Anywho, we got a lot to talk about today, folks, because the Metropolitans just took care of business against the San Diego Padres team pretty convincingly. I mean, the offense in Game 2 wasn't pretty on either side, but I mean, this Padres offense, which was steamrolling Atlanta the series before, winning 3 of 4, could have even swept that series. I mean, they come into Queens, and Mets pitching takes care of business. Every starter in the series got the job done, at least 5 strong innings, and the bullpen, especially in Game 3 today, really stepped up, led by David Robertson, which I am just so enamored with right now. If you look at his baseball savant numbers, Joe, they are all like in the 90-plus percentile, walk rate 91. I get it, we're only 2 weeks into the season, but I absolutely love it. So I'm drinking that juice that is David Robertson every single day of the week right now. And I just want to know for you, Joe, just kind of going right into this with the Padres and the homestand as a whole, I would like to know your raw reactions before we kind of deep dive a little bit more about what transpired here.
Yeah, right off the bat, it's that the Mets weren't intimidated by the Padres. They didn't let what happened last postseason carry over. Obviously, last year, the Pods won 2 out of 3, both regular season series and then in the postseason wildcard series, and that didn't carry over. There was no like, oh, we can't beat Yu Darvish. What did they do? They went out and they beat Yu Darvish. Scherzer wiped it off because Scherzer had about 4 straight bad starts going back to the end of last year, beginning of this year, and if there was a perfect time to right the ship, it was against these Padres, against Yu Darvish. So, I mean, big takeaways. The starting pitchers went out there and shoved. Even Peterson, that was the game we lost, but you know, he gave up 2 runs, right? Peterson, you kind of expect he's going to go 5 or 6 innings and give up 2. Like that's
kind
of
2, walk like 3. You know,
right? Like he's going to walk some guys, going to K some guys. But you know, I thought it was a fine start from Peterson. I also thought there were a few at bats, especially I think the first one against Soto, where he was kind of getting squeezed a bit. So I thought Peterson looked sharp. I thought Max looked like Max, and McGill just, you know, he's going out there. He's not going that deep into games, but he's giving you 5 to 6 really good innings of 2-run ball this year. So he's been consistent. He's been, I think, pretty courageous. And McGill, you know, 3 starts in the books, and I've been really impressed with all 3. So starting pitchers shoved. They went out there. They didn't let anything with San Diego carry over, took care of the Marlins per usual, and just righted the ship after a Brewers series that everyone was screaming the sky's falling afterwards. The Mets just, you know, got home, and not to, you know, no pun intended, it was their old victory song, but they got home and they took care of business.
They took care of business. They went 4-2 on this 6-game homestand. And that Marlins series, because we didn't do an episode 4, just to brief, the biggest thing is I was there for the home opener behind home plate. Awesome stuff. The offense really broke out in that matchup, especially against Edward Cabrera. Game 2, same thing kind of applied. Kodai Senga looked fantastic for that Saturday start. Just strikeout machine. We love Senga so much and what he's brought to the Mets early in this rotation. Game 3 was a wash. Cookie Carrasco, more like Cookie crumbled once again. I mean, I think that this goes in hand with seeing McGill once again pitch 5 strong innings today with his family in attendance. Julie, the McGill family were there. We always love to see that, right? But my question...
I might see him at Dodger Stadium next week.
There you go. That would be fantastic. Hopefully that happens. So staying on this McGill topic for a second, Joe, after seeing him do well once again, and with Justin Verlander expected to return before the month's end in that final homestand against the Nationals or the Braves, once that finally happens, Do you think that there's a fair argument to be had that McGill should be the number 5 starter over Carrasco?
Yeah, there definitely is. Now, look, I know right now, with Cookie, he's making a lot of money. So it's not a guy that you can just easily just cut because you're going to be paying him. So you would hope if you're paying him, 15 mil, he's going to be able to contribute to this team in some way, shape, or form. But right now, because of the injuries that have decimated the bullpen, instead of Verlander coming back and McGill just going down to AAA, it would be most beneficial for someone to go to the bullpen. And while the initial instinct would be McGill, I think it should be Cookie. I know Carrasco's the proven guy who's been in the league over 10 years and he's really put up some great numbers, but he just doesn't have it right now. And he doesn't have any velo. He's throwing 88, 89 mile per hour meatballs. I can't see any reason if he goes out, especially, against Oakland. I mean, this should be a get right game for him. And if he goes out there and he doesn't have it, for a third straight time, I wouldn't be quick to cut him because our bullpen has some pitchers who don't deserve to be in the major league level, frankly. But I would, maybe explore moving Carrasco to the pen before I would do anything with McGill. I mean, let McGill keep going out there and shoving for 5, maybe 6 innings. And maybe if Cookie goes to the pen, if he's only got to toss 1 or 2, maybe his velo will tick up a little bit. Maybe his breaking stuff will be a little sharper if he's not expected to go deeper. But I don't know if it's the pitch clock that's been messing with him or if it's just, father time catching up to him. Yeah, I just, Cookie, you can't trust him right now. And McGill you can trust. And why throw that away when Verlander comes back? I would say Carrasco to the bullpen and then, get rid of Reyes or Santana or any of those guys.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that front wholeheartedly because Cookie, you'd have to think that should he be able to adjust to that kind of inning or multi-inning bullpen role that the velo would have more life, right? Because he's starting off the games fine with velo, but just after a couple innings, it's getting down to the high 80s, and that's obviously concerning when they're meatballs right down the pipe. So, yeah, don't want to harp on the Cookie topic long, but it's definitely worth noting given how well McGill has performed for a guy that was supposed to be the Mets' number 7 starter heading into the year. And thanks to all the injuries inevitably happening, he's really impressing. And you have to give a tip of the cap to him with how he's looked. So I'm very happy with McGill on that front. And when we look at this Padres series as a whole, right, you look at this game 1 especially, Jeff McNeil came up with a big hit for the Mets in that matchup. Mad Max, I feel like we were talking a little bit, texting about it. I'm not too sure how much, but you look at the stat line and maybe you think he shoved, but he really didn't. Max really had at least 7 full counts in the first 4 innings. He was worked quite a bit. However, we saw something that we really didn't see in his prior 2 starts, and that was more of that bulldog mentality with him and just knowing to find those crafty ways of getting those outs and those key strikeouts when need be. So he really labored through those 5 innings, but was able to give the Mets a chance and kept them in it for sure, only allowing 1 hit, no earned runs, a couple walks that we saw. But I want to know, how are you feeling about Max? Is this a sign of improvement for you from the previous 2 starts that we've seen from him to start the year?
Yeah, definite. I mean, come on, 5 innings, 1 hit. I know we would have loved to see him go deeper and maybe have better K numbers, but 5 innings of shutout, 1 hit ball. Yeah, that's definitely something I'll take every time through, even though Max is a guy who we're accustomed to seeing go, 7 innings of maybe 1 or 2 run ball. But I liked what I saw. He definitely was battling control at times, but it was mentally that I loved what I saw. First 2 starts, he just didn't seem like he was all there. And, in this start, he didn't get rattled by anything. Maybe the communication with Nito early on. He barked at the catcher a few times, but didn't get rattled, falling behind in counts or anything. Stayed tough, even when his velo dipped, which I thought it was pretty obvious around the 3rd inning that his fastball lost some life from 94, 95 to like 91. Even when his velo dipped, though, he stayed in there. He was, dotting the corner, hitting his spots, and that mental toughness, just going out there and competing. He wasn't throwing, he was pitching. There's a big difference. And even though he couldn't go as deep as we would have liked or maybe needed, he got the job done. We won the game. We beat Darvish. That's all that matters.
Yeah, talk about beating Darvish. This was the first time the Mets have ever beaten Darvish in their existence as a team, right? You was 5-0 with a really solid year rate entering that start there the other day, and the Mets were able to put up, how many runs were they able to actually record on him? What was it?
I don't remember exactly. I mean, it was 3 days ago already. I couldn't tell you what I had for breakfast, so I don't remember the exact score of that game. But I'll look it up.
Yeah, they did well, especially because the runs were charged on him after a reliever came in for San Diego, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say it was 4 or 5 runs.
Jeez, Tampa's going to win again. This is nuts.
Of course they are.
Let me pull up the Mets.
Go ahead. And while you do that, I'm going to answer some donations quick. Unrelated
Yeah,
question.
we
Thank
got
you
a few
so much
already.
for the $2 holla. He says, Thick D Pete let his bat hang today. Yes, he did, with an absolute moonshot off of Blake Snell down the pipe. Easy going there for Alonso. And Yoshimo with the $5 holla before Joe's going to rant about the Toronto Blue Jays here in a second. $5 donation.
What's going on?
$5 donation from Yoshima. Never got to say it earlier because I was at the game today, but congrats, Wardy, on your accomplishment. So proud of you. Hope you're doing great too, Joe. Thank you so much, Yoshima. I appreciate that. What Yoshima's referring to is I'll be on a new show that will be on SNY's YouTube channel and all their social platforms tomorrow at noon. Make sure to check it out, guys, if you haven't heard about it already. Myself, Michelle Margot, and Wolf Salmon, writer for The Athletic, noon tomorrow. Shout out to you, Yoshima. Hope you had a great time at the game. But more than anything, Joe, what are we complaining about over here before we get back?
I don't know what happened. It's like I got the Jays game on, and Vladdy was dead to rights at home, but I think the umpire is saying it would have been the final out of the inning. I think the umpire is saying Detroit's third baseman got in his way, so he's awarding him home plate, so we might have a tie game here. Obviously, that's one of my 2 play of the days, Kevin Gausman to get the win. This would make it 1-1 in the 4th. But back to the Mets. Yeah, 5-0 on that opener. All 5 charged to Darvish, who went 6 1/3, and then I believe the last 2 came in, via the pen, but were charged to him.
Yeah, gotcha. So yeah, very strong first game for the Mets. A nice all-around team victory. Game 2 was frustrating because they could have essentially won the game, and they just hit with bases loaded, no outs there in the first inning. And we saw
I don't question Buck often, but going to Santana in that spot down 2-1 in the top of the 9th, I thought was like
that didn't help.
One
Look,
of the worst
I
moves he's
understood not
made.
doing Robertson because that's why Robertson was so pivotal today, for example. But
I would have gone to Drew Smith. Like he threw 15 pitches the night before. I mean, Santana
look at how Drew looked today, though,
team.
too. Drew's command concerns me. The Mets don't have a lot of locks in their pen right now. I can understand
but I'd rather
picking someone
die with
over
Drew Smith
Santana.
than Santana.
I can understand that a little bit more, but I think not only that decision, but more than anything, again, the Mets, all they needed was a base knock there in the first, and they would have had 2 runs to start the game. All they needed was a walk. All they needed was a sac fly, a ground out to at least get 1 run. And they did nothing. And then today, as we got to game 3, thankfully, where they did get the W, led by Tyler McGill, then the bullpen looking sharp. Brooks Raley a little shaky again. Drew Smith got a final out, and then was shaky. And then they brought in Robertson. Robertson, 4 outs for the setup. Was fantastic today. Love me some David Robertson. And then Adam Ottavino with the clean 9th for the save, his first of the year. But when you go back to the offensive production, again, the Mets were in a spot, first inning today, less than 2 outs, and they couldn't convert having bases loaded. Then later on in the game, bases loaded, no outs. Tomas Nido, first pitch swinging right in the glove of Machado and gets a double play tag there at third. Thankfully, Brandon Nimmo stepped up today. That's why he was my star of the game for Game 3 today. 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs, a double for his first, thanks to Juan Soto being anything but a Gold Glove, yet he's somehow a reigning Gold Glover. There in left, couldn't get the ball. Him and Grisham had some miscommunication there, and then he pulled one to right for a single to drive in a run. But I want to ask you, yeah, we're not going to sit here and complain too much because the Mets just got a big series W against a Padres team that was flaming hot coming out of Hotlanta. But I do just want to emphasize for a second how there are still obviously flaws with this offense. And I want to know, how did you feel watching this offense specifically throughout this 3-game set, where it felt like they had endless opportunities? Like the fact that they didn't sweep this series, in my opinion, is frustrating because they easily could have and should have, losing 2-1 in Game 2.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree with you. I actually don't feel good about this offense right now. They did just enough, but it's like how we were winning games last year, doing just enough and getting great pitching. And as we saw last year, that's not going to be sustainable again. I mean, they won 101 games last year, and obviously they had some injuries in September down the stretch and whatnot, but they got to the postseason, they went down like little lambs. So, I do still have frustrations and concerns regarding the offense. Escobar is hitting like 108 now through the first 12 games of the year. That can't hold up much longer. Mark Canha, who I love, and I really was pleased with Canha's performance last year through the month of August, September, October. He went MIA, but so did so many guys on this team. Canha's done nothing. And to look at a lineup where he's batting 5th some nights is, to me, like how do you justify that? That's really, really bad. If Mark Canha's your 5 hitter, I love him. And, to me right now, he's more like a 4th outfielder. If he's starting, he's like a number 9 hitter, like a flip the lineup over, work some deep counts, tire the pitcher out type of guy. To have him hitting 5th when he's shown 0 pop and just like 0, I mean, forget pop. He doesn't even have a batting average this year. It's atrocious. The lineup obviously has a lot of major issues. And, you got guys that, we'll get into. I don't know if you want to use this as a segue or not, but you've got guys down on the farm that are just mashing night after night. It doesn't look fluky at all. And you got Mark Canha hitting 5th at the big league level. It's like, all right, maybe it's time to do something.
Yeah, before we segue into that, because that was beautifully said on your part, I do want to emphasize, who's hot, who's not right now for the Mets, because you talked about Canha, and which you're absolutely correct. Outside of that one good game in Miami, we really haven't seen much on that front. Eduardo Escobar, I don't think I need to say much more on that front.
I think we just answered who's not. Why don't we just talk about who's hot?
Let's talk about who's hot, right? I mean, you look at offensive production. Nimmo looked very sharp today. McNeil had a good game this year. McNeil isn't necessarily getting those consistent hits that we're seeing, 2 to 3 hits a game yet. However, he did get on base 3 times today, all via walk. So he's really working that OBP up, which is nice. And bat-wise, Alonso and Lindor, again, it's like they're in unison. They both hit a home run the same game. They're in Miami. Pardon me, not in Miami, but against the Marlins, of which I was in attendance for the homestand, the home opener, rather. Then game 2, Alonso hit another bomb. And today, Lindor rips one to left his second year. And Alonso says, how you doing? I'm going to rip one myself, too, because Blake Snell threw a meatball right down the pipe. So those two, when they're on, they're on. It's frustrating because you know that when they're not, there's a clear issue with this team. But I will say there's one guy that has kind of pleasantly surprised me. It's Tommy Pham. It's actually Tommy Pham.
Wasn't I telling you this a week ago? I like Tommy Pham.
It's a 280 average. It's a 760 OPS, 13 games in the year. A simple sample size. Had an RBI today, 2 base knocks. I got to give Pham credit for when he has been out there. He has been productive more than he has been lack thereof. And I think that's important to look out for a guy that is your 4th outfielder / DH type, in which he was today in that DH spot. And talk about a guy who's not hot. It's Daniel Vogelback as well. I mean, he's done anything. He's done anything but something, right? So there are definitely, when you look at this team as a whole, aside from pitching, you have Carrasco. The rest are all pretty strong. Bullpen, it's been up and down to start the year, but no one that I want to sit here and drastically nitpick and say that,
we could have Colin Holderman in the bullpen right now. That's all.
We could have Colin Holderman in the bullpen. You're going to beat that drum until you can't anymore, until the guy's retired at this rate.
Probably.
But yeah, I think when you look at who's hot, who's not, that really fits the void. So what I also want to ask you, let's just jump now into young bats, the minors. Before we talk about the minor leaguers and how we feel about them, because we have very strong opinions on that front, let's talk about a guy who's already up with the team. And what have your first impressions been of Francisco Alvarez? Because for mine, great defense. I think he's looked sharp behind the plate. I really don't think that's been a liability for him. And maybe not great defense, but he hasn't been a liability. I will say that.
I wouldn't say great. I mean, we've seen him catch 1 game.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm saying, no, two.
At least 2 games. Excuse me, 2 games.
And he's looked perfectly fine back there. Offensively, we know he's pressing like a mofo. Josh Hader couldn't command the strike zone in game 2 yesterday. And he's like, let me just throw some fastballs at the chin. And
threw 7 balls in that at-bat.
7 balls. So what's your initial takeaway of Alvarez, and what would you like to see of him going forward as we then head into this West Coast trip?
Yeah, my initial takeaway is that it's too damn early to have a takeaway because he's looked like crap at the plate. He looks like what he was doing last year against the Braves and against the Padres in any high leverage moment. Obviously, he raked. Oh, wow. Did Miggy just get all that? No, it's to the warning track. Kiermaier's got it. Obviously, he came home for that final 3-game set against the Nationals last year and hit the cover off the ball. But that's because, we had essentially already lost the division and we were playing the freaking Washington Nationals. So a lot easier to do in those circumstances. Against the Braves, he was pressing. He stunk. Against the Padres, did nothing. So far, he's done nothing. And I think it's because he's trying to do too much. Last night,
absolutely. He wanted to hit a 3-run ding-dong yesterday. There's no
sorry, not a 1-run game because Santana gave up 2. What was it, 4-2 when Alvarez was up?
It was 4-2, and there were 2 on. He was 2 out yesterday. His home run would have walked it off. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's the winning run. He's trying to do too much, and he looks like crap. But we're a couple games in to his 2023 campaign. He's young. His swing is too long. I was saying this in spring training. I'll say it again. His swing is too long, and he doesn't have command of the strike zone. AAA, a long swing, you can mash 30, 40 home runs. You get to the big leagues, that's not going to cut it. You have a long swing, they're going to exploit it. You know who's got a long swing, and he was an MVP a few years ago? Cody Bellinger has a long swing, and he's hitting $180 for the Cubs right now, and his career has gone.
Belly's swing mechanics are a completely different breed. I mean, don't even get me started.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
Alvarez, like, it looks like Vientos when he got called up last year. Vientos and his long, loopy swing.
Yeah.
Shorten it up. There's probably no one on the team stronger than Francisco Alvarez. So the bat speed's not going to be an issue. Just shorten it up. Get around a little quicker, and just have a little more control of that barrel, because the guy is a fire hydrant. I mean, he'll figure it out. It's too early to be concerned or to have a takeaway. Just the fact is he hasn't looked good yet, but he'll figure it out. The swing is just flawed.
Well, let's talk about guys that have looked good of the young bats, because we get a donation here from Astros fan. Thank you so much for the $2 holla. He says, why haven't you guys brought up Beatty or Vientos? That's funny you ask, because we're kind of wondering the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Almost since we felt that way since the starting roster for the season was officially announced. So talking about the kids doing well, Brett Beatty had his first game yesterday after being out for a little bit with a thumb soreness, that same thumb that he suffered season-ending surgery on last year. Beatty casually his first at-bat yesterday, RBI double, hits a ding-dong as well. Speaking of guys hitting home runs yesterday, add Mark Vientos and Ronnie Mauricio to that list. Ronnie, since turning 22 over the past week, has hit 3 to 4 home runs already, had at least 1 or 2 base knocks tonight. I think Vientos hit a home run tonight as well. I mean, the kids are absolutely thriving.
Makes you wonder what you've done with your life at 22.
Oh my God, I'm a schmuck sitting in a chair. Yeah, that's what I'm dealing with. Yeah, it really does make you think though. Especially when Alvarez is younger than me. Like, that is like big yikes.
Yeah. Dude, I'll never forget. It freaked me out when I was like, because I don't know, I was in high school. Like, obviously I was a high school college athlete. Like, you're like, oh yeah, like I got it going on. And then you turn like 19 and you see an 18-year-old drop 40 in an NBA game. And you're like, wow. What have I done with my life?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, right now. Like,
besides being over a foot smaller than the average NBA player, and having talent, on my end at least, I was a 6'4" center
in high school, and I would need to be a freaking shooting guard if I was to play at any higher level.
Yeah, a 6'4". I don't know why.
I feel like JJ Redick. I was playing at 5 in high school.
Oh, that's funny shit. I don't know why, but you at center made me think about, like, let's be with the assumption that centers that you were facing off with were smaller, even though that's hard to imagine because you're 6'4". Centers are usually north of 7 feet. They're hot. They're bigger.
Long Island high school basketball. Yeah, they were all in the 6'3" to 6'6" range.
So let's just go with the assumption that you're, say, decently taller than the guy you're going up against, right? The opposing guy. Yeah, it makes me think. It makes me think so much of when I saw Zach Edey for the first time for Purdue, playing Penn State and Philly. When I tell you that he had every shot open the entire game and missed half them, and still managed with like 30 points. But dude,
him winning player of the year is a joke.
It's just a little lob, and like the amount of times I witnessed him miss was cracking me up. He has to do such little effort. You can literally just hand it into the basket.
I mean, how about the way Fairleigh Dickinson had him in March Madness? I mean, Fairleigh Dickinson's tallest player was 6'6". I could have been a power forward at Fairleigh Dickinson, but they were fast, they were pesky, and Purdue, because they didn't pull away early. And this is we'll wrap up this college hoops talk, but because Purdue didn't pull away, Edey didn't have time to rest, and you saw how poorly conditioned he is, not necessarily to a fault of his own, but because he's 7'4", he couldn't run the court for 40 minutes. So. Yeah, it really burned him in Purdue. I don't think he should have won Player of the Year. But that's a story for another day, probably another show.
Absolutely, yeah. Almost like maybe a conversation to have on Sorrel Sports Talk. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Hop on with me. We'll talk about Zach Edey and Purdue.
Okay.
My March Madness bets were insane.
They were insane. We'll have to have a separate discussion on that. But going back to the young bats here, how you feeling? Because again, the kids are absolutely thriving to start the season. And we look at this Mets lineup, I understand we're only 13 games into the year. And even though I say that, the Mets are second to last in batting average in the NL, only trailing the Pirates. The Padres are just ahead of them, if I'm not mistaken. So the Mets are bottom 3. However, their offense is so interesting to start the year, Joe, because they're third in walks in all of MLB. They have just under 60 walks rate this year. So they're getting walks galore, but not driving them in well. They have struggled with runners in scoring position. And if I'm not mistaken, they are at least third in the NL in stolen bases with 13, thanks to guys like WardyNYM, even Mark Cannon running and stealing bags now. So when you look at how this offensive production is right now, they have the place setters, but coloring me shocked. They're struggling to drive them in. Tell me about it. What should we do with this?
I'm ready to get him up here. Look, I was ready for Beatty after the spring in some sort of platoon, DH, third base role, whatever it is. But Mauricio and even Vientos, who I've been probably the harshest critic on this show of Mark Vientos.
Last year, oh my God, yeah, you were.
Yeah, because I didn't like the long loopy swing, but I'm ready for him. But, the problem is it's like you really can't do it until someone gets hurt because at least, unless they show us for a couple months that they stink, Escobar, Mark Canna, Vogie's really not making a lot, but these are guys that I think the Mets ownership and front office has committed to at least for this year. And I don't see them going anywhere. Canna and Escobar both making around, roughly speaking, 10 to 12 mil. I don't think that, they're going to just cut ties with those guys, pay them, and then call it Mauricio, call it Vientos. By the way, Mauricio, has he played any outfield in AAA? I don't think he has, which kind of concerns me. What are they going to do? Put him at second and put McNeil in left? Or is Mauricio coming up this year just not even a thought? The guy's crushing it right now.
I don't know. I could foresee a world where it would make sense to have him at second and put McNeil in right. Right or left?
It would probably be left.
Yeah.
Obviously McNeil's got more experience there, but
that could be the Mets way of. That also could be the Mets' way of trying to maximize Mauricio's trade value because maybe they don't foresee a future with him as much as we do.
They'd be idiots. The guy's a 5-tool player. He is a 5-tool 22-year-old man. He's hitting the ball 430 feet night after night, it feels like.
He is looking like O'Neal Cruz light. I'm not even going to lie. Speaking of O'Neal Cruz, so terrible what happened to him. Oh.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal. But yeah, I want to see Mauricio. I want to see Vientos even, against lefties. I want to see Beatty. I'll see Vientos against righties. Just, see if they could do anything.
People in the chat are saying Mauricio at DH. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I just don't see the Mets doing that. If there's going to be a young kid at DH for a decent period of time that isn't Alvarez, it's going to be Vientos because he's a first baseman. So that already makes sense. And that's a route I foresee the Mets going sooner than later, because you could still make the argument that Vientos' bat may be more MLB ready than Mauricio right now, because Mauricio's making great strides, but they're really, really fast. And we can't sit here and assume that he's going to necessarily translate great to the MLB right away, versus Vientos, who at least already has a taste of the bigs and understands what it takes, and he's had time to make the proper adjustments from last year.
Right. Well, that's the thing. He's seen big league pitching.
Yep.
So, he's definitely probably more ready than Mauricio, but I don't think he's more talented.
Oh, I agree. I don't think he's more talented either, but I think when it comes to his floor, it's certainly higher right now at the MLB level than what Mauricio is.
Probably, yeah. I could see Mauricio coming up too soon and having his confidence shaken. Yep. But at the same time, I do like his demeanor too. It's like you watch him, he's very confident. And it's just like, obviously chases a little bit, doesn't have the best knowledge of the strike zone. Not too many young kids do. Not too many 19-year-olds come up like Juan Soto knowing the strike zone better than umpires do. But Mauricio...
19-year-olds?
Wasn't Juan Soto 19 when he came up?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you called Mauricio 19. I'm like, nope.
No. Juan Soto was 19 when he came up.
Yes, and he was a dog.
But yeah, in terms of Mauricio's confidence, though, I do think he's got a good head on his shoulders. And once he gets better command of the zone, I think the kid's going to be a force. I really don't want to give him up.
Mauricio's growing on me like a mofo, not just because his name is signed on the inside of the brim of his hat right now, but because he looks sharp. He really does. Like, he's made major strides and really filling into his body now that we've seen over 200 pounds now.
He's what, 220 now?
He's like
the kid
220.
was 165 soaking wet.
It's insane. It's insane how much he's grown in a short period of time. But all right, so we talked about the kids. We know we want them up. But staying on the kids topic, we head into this West Coast preview now, right? And we're going to emphasize mainly the Oakland A's series, pitching matchup wise, but we'll also just share our thoughts overall because it's a long West Coast trip from the 13th to the 24th. So the Mets, usually who don't have a West Coast trip until sometime in summer, get a long one already this early into the season. I know you're looking forward to it because you'll be there in LA. Hopefully,
I'm not. It's cold. Night games in LA are cold.
You're not
People
going to
don't
at
think
least one game. Fuck out of here. Come on.
I know, of course I'm going, but
All right.
people don't realize. You said I'm looking forward to it. There's a difference.
Oh, wow.
I'd be looking. Dude, I went in June last year and I was freezing. Mets Dodgers in June got so cold at night. Like people don't realize LA. It gets when the sun goes down. Like it might be beautiful during the day. Although today the high was like 62. But really, it does not get beautiful out here until July, August, and September. Like September out here is scorching hot, maybe the hottest month of the year. The spring gets chilly. I'm probably going to go Monday or Tuesday night. I don't think I'll be going Wednesday afternoon. And it's going to be nippy. It's definitely going to be nippy.
You got to bundle up. Wear one of those Mets jackets or pullovers you got from when you're working at Citi Field. That's what I would recommend.
There you go. Yeah, I'll help some people to their seats too at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, you might as well. They'll probably need it, right? They don't even know where they're at. They're just like, oh, okay, Dodgers. All right, let's go.
The Dodger fans don't know much. I'll throw that out there.
Why do I feel like Dodger fans would do a "Let's Go Dodgers" chant the way that schmuck what's his face did for "Let's Go Mets"?
Oh my God! Oh, who is that? Oh my God! Santos. He's the congressman from my district back up. That guy is a joke. That was the worst.
It was actually hilarious.
He's probably not even a Mets fan. He probably lied about that, just like everything else on his resume.
I don't know how you could be a Mets fan by saying "Let's go Mets." No, there's just no way. But all right, so let's talk about this West Coast trip because there's one thing in particular that I'm really emphasizing here for the Oakland A's series, and that is Francisco Alvarez. I truly believe needs to start at minimum 2 or 3 games of this series.
Who's pitching? Senga, Cookie, and Max?
Let me check.
Yeah, it's Senga, Cookie, and Max. Probably going to get Nito for Friday and Sunday. I think the way it's going to work, now maybe have Alvarez DH to, make him in the lineup at least twice. But I think the way it's going to work is that Nito will always catch Senga and Max. I think Alvarez catching Senga would frankly be a disaster. And Max last year had like a 2 flat ERA with Nito. He loves Nito. So I think Nito's going to catch Max and Senga, and then Alvarez should be catching Peterson, McGill, and Cookie.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. So you agreed by having Alvarez at least 2 to 3, or no?
Well, no, against Oakland, he'd be catching 1 out of the 3 because it's Senga Friday, Max Sunday. I think he should be in a lineup minimum 2. Have him DH one of the other games, but
I don't think Buck's going to do it, though. That's the only frustration.
He can't catch Senga, and I don't think Max wants him to catch him, frankly.
What's that?
I said Alvarez can't catch Senga. He would look terrible back there with that ghost fork coming in. And Max wants Nito. So Max is going to get what he wants.
He wants Nito, even though that they had a fair share of
but if you look at Max's numbers with Nito catching
they're great. They're great.
It's like a 2 flat ERA versus like McCann last year or anyone else.
Oh, Nito's a great defensive catcher. We know that. So I'm not shocked by that. And I agree with you in the sense that I would really like to see Alvarez maybe play Game 1, Game 3, but maybe let's see if we look at exactly at the pitching matchup. Game 1 is Senga versus Caprillion? I can't say his name. The right-hander. Can you try to
Caprillion?
Caprillion? Is that how you say it? All right.
I would have to look at it. I mean, the A's rotation, it's pretty bad.
11-year rate.
Saturday. I would have loved to see Senga go Saturday against Fujiyama.
Oh my, yeah, Shintaro Fujinami, who I'm a big fan of, has been cooked to start the year.
Yeah,
as a start, he's gonna be a reliever. That's what
Syndergaard slated for that Wednesday day game. He's gonna weasel his way out of it.
Of course he will.
He's a bitch.
Yeah, he's. But all right, so we
already know it. You're a bitch.
We got Shintaro.
You got the 91 mile per hour fastball to prove it.
Oh, meatballs! He's literally Cookie. All right, speaking of Cookie, so it's Carrasco versus Shintaro Fujinami for Game 2, and then Game 3 is Sears from the Yanks last year. What a
He's
great
lefty,
trade.
right?
Yeah, what a great trade for Oakland last year. Talk about lopsided. Holy shit.
Dude, there it is right there. Alvarez should be DHing. He should be catching Saturday and DHing Sunday.
Catching Saturday for Carrasco and DHing Sunday with Max on the bump.
Against the lefty.
I like that. I actually love that. And I would like to see that.
And then
We
it's
saw
Oakland.
Vientos last year when they were in Oakland do well too. He hit a home run there. Did he not?
Right. And then also because it's Oakland, like you can give guys a day off. So like DH Alvarez, and if you want to jam righties in the lineup, you can give Nimmo a day off and put Pham and Canna in there. Like Canna should be, hopefully playing every game. It's a homecoming Oakland. Hopefully that kind of, every now and then that'll like juice something out of these guys, right? Going back to his old team, maybe we'll get something out of him in this series. So it's the kind of thing where Sunday day game, give Nimmo a little rest day off before the Dodgers, put Canna in center, Pham in left, Alvarez DH, just load up the righties,
Yeah, load up the right. Yep. I agree with you on that one. So this series, we don't really got to talk much on it. The A's are 2-9.
You got to sweep them. You got to sweep them.
There's no excuse to lose this series. Speaking of which, as the Oakland A's are up 4-2 on the Baltimore Orioles right now in the 7th. But again, Baltimore, while I really like them, Mets have higher expectations than the Orioles this year too.
What did they do last September? Did the Mets win? They won 2 out of 3 against Oakland, right?
They won.
But DeGrom got his tits lit?
Yeah, he got his tits lit. Yep.
That should have been a sweep. Wasn't it like Max, Jake, and Bassett?
Yeah.
Oh, get down. Damn it.
You're right. It was. I'm pretty sure it was Max, Jake, Bassett that series. And who would have thought Jake's the guy that, is the shit show. Jake
always sucked against the AL West.
It was few and far in between because of him pitching against them. But yes.
Right. But like he had some I want to say 2 awful starts against, ironically, the Rangers. Maybe that's why he joined them, because he couldn't beat them. But yeah, he struggled against the AL West, oddly enough.
So we have 3 games in Oakland. Then we got 3 in LA, 4 in San Francisco. I think the Giants going to be pain in our ass. I just feel it. I think be like Mike.
They shouldn't
Baby.
be. They have the highest K rate in baseball.
They shouldn't be. But Conforto's going to do well. I know he's going to do.
I don't think so. I think JD Davis scares me more than Conforto doesn't scare. He's not good. I know you love him. Michael Conforto is not good.
Nonsense.
There's a reason the Mets wanted nothing to do with him, and our outfield really could use some improvements. He's not good.
The Mets were interested in Conforto, but he wouldn't come here because he wouldn't be starting every day. That's the only reason why he didn't.
Well, they weren't interested in making him a starter again because he's not worth being a starter again. He's not good. He's not good.
We'll see by the end of the year. I will stand Conforto until otherwise. Anywho, you got Conforto, JD Davis.
They got Darren Ruff hitting 5th tonight.
You know he got called out, right?
Yeah, he's hitting 5th tonight.
He's actually hitting. You know what I heard about Darren Ruff?
Dude,
which puts
2 through 5 is Wilmer, Conforto, JD, Ruff.
That's actually insane.
Against Kershaw.
Oh my God.
I hope Ruff takes him deep.
Yeah, me too. Speaking of Darren Ruff, I will say this about him, and this will be my final thing. There was some information that came out after the fact, obviously, regarding the passing of his father. Wasn't too long after he was then traded to the Mets, and that definitely played a little bit of a factor into his lack of performance. So I'm not going to sit here and shit on Darren Ruff constantly. Everyone goes through, losses differently. I'm aware of that, and I can understand why a transition as well isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. And when you don't start off
transitioning too, I didn't know that. Poor guy.
Damn it.
You're like, I just like a really serious topic.
Yeah. I'm literally talking about his dead dad, and you're like, oh, he's transgender. I get it. Okay, sweet. Man. Great. All right, so let's go to the series as a whole. West Coast trip as a whole. It's from the 14th to the 23rd. Mets play 3, 6, 10 games. What is your prediction for them during this West Coast trip?
Is it 4 in San Fran? I thought it was 3.
It's 4.
Okay. You got to come out of the 6 and 4 at least. West Coast trips or opposite coast trips, as I should say, are always tough. So I want to, give some credit there. They're not easy, but this is Oakland. I mean, the Dodgers are not as scary as they've been every year for the last, decade almost. The Giants, I don't really view as a good team. They strike out at tremendously high rates. Logan Webb, he's been getting Ks, but he's also been so home run prone in his first 3 starts. Like, the Giants don't scare me. The Dodgers don't even scare me. Like, the Mets just took 2 out of 3 from the best team in the NL West. So going into this trip, 7-3 is probably too lofty for an expectation. But 6-4 should be the floor. Last year it was June. They went 5-5 on the road trip. Angels, Dodgers, Padres, and that was a good-looking 5-5. Dodgers and Padres were some damn good teams, as we saw. Dodgers won 184 games, and the Padres went to the NLCS. So yeah, 5-5 was acceptable last year. This year, it's got to be 6-4. You got to win 2 in Oakland. I think you should win 2 at the Dodgers, but if not, go win 3 in San Fran. You got to come out of this with a winning record. 5-5 is not good enough on this trip.
5-5 is not good enough. However, that is what the Mets are going to ultimately be having, and that's my honest prediction.
I think
the Mets are going to go 5-5. I think the offense is going to stay inconsistent, and I hope I'm proven wrong. I hope they go out. I hope they go 7-3. But I think 5-5 is a very realistic possibility with the ebbs and flows of this offense, and their first major road trip of the year as well. Wouldn't shock me in the slightest if, say, they split against the Giants.
How mad are you and every East Coaster in the chat that I get to watch a Mets-Dodger game start at 7 p.m.?
Ridiculously mad. And that's why we're going to be having you on the channel for at minimum like 2 post-game shows throughout that stretch, because I'm going to need someone to keep me up a little bit when we're covering those games. So
they call me the Human Red Bull.
They call it, yep. There you go, Joe the Human Red Bull. You heard it here first, folks.
They really just got him going 1st to 3rd. Man, the Blue Jays look like crap.
Yeah. Not shocked that they have their inconsistencies too. But before
they're straining 2 guys on every inning. Like, give me a break. Gossman's out there shoving, and it's 1-1.
It's funny because normally when you hear the Blue Jays look like crap, it's because of a lack of pitching and yet star offense. Today's the opposite.
Yeah. Again, getting hits. They can't run the bases to save their lives.
That's what tells you it's early in the season. If someone says Fam slapping Jock, yeah, it's gonna be Fam Jock 2.0 round 2 fight.
He's still with the Giants?
Yeah.
Is he hurt? I haven't seen him in the lineup.
No, he's there. He's good.
I have not seen him in the lineup lately.
He might not be starting every game, but I'm almost certain he's healthy.
Interesting. Yeah, because I've been seeing the middle of that lineup's been like Wilmer, JD, Yaz. I have not seen Jock in that lineup.
Yoshima, thank you for the donation. I didn't even see this until now. Keep Fam away from Jock when the Mets go to San Fran. That's funny. I mean, hey, man's going to do what a man's going to do. I got to give Fam credit. Don't get me wrong, that whole situation is ridiculous. But I have to give him credit. He stayed true to his word. He told Jock over a year prior to slapping him that next time I see you, I'm going to bitch slap you. And it's not Fam's fault that it took over a year to see him again. That's just how the schedule works. So he's like, shit, it could have been a decade later. And Fam's going to be pulling out the receipts and giving him a little good old bitch slap. That it was inevitably going to happen at some point. Tim Dog.
He only played 1 game in this Dodgers series and only 2 against the Royals.
Interesting. Okay. Tim Dog, thank you for the donation. In 120 games at AAA from 2021 to now, Vientos is batting .291 with 31 home runs, 82 runs scored, 81 RBIs, 57 walks, and 130 hits. Couple that with the strong spring training. So Tim giving a nice heavy advocacy here for Mark Vientos. And Mark EV, again, I wouldn't mind him here. He would surely add more production at the DH than what we're getting. But again, I will say this, Tommy Pham has pleasantly surprised me a little bit to start this year. And, performing... I don't want him necessarily being a starting DH, but if he's going to be, I'm glad he's performing. So keep it up, Tommy. We're cheering you on, baby, and be as blunt as ever in your post games, because that makes my day. It really does. He holds nothing back. One thing that I did credit as well, I don't know if you saw this, it was towards the end of spring, I think, Joe. I'm not sure if we talked about it much. He got his eyes redone and got his contacts fixed, and that has done wonders for him, I've heard as well. And that is a very accurate thing. I've been wearing contacts for years, and if they are not right, and I had a prescription change throughout the winter, and they were actually too strong, believe it or not. So when they're too strong, it feels like you have astigmatism because you can't see properly out of them. So I need to get my eyes checked another 2nd or 3rd time for them to dial back a little bit of what they initially gave me prescription-wise, and now everything's balanced. But for a little bit, you think strong means that, you will eventually adjust. No, you wouldn't. It really is makes it look like it's weak because it's blurry.
It really shows you that baseball is as simple as see the ball, hit the ball. And if you can't see the ball, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, Eddie Rosario needing eye surgery last year. I think what was it? Was it LASIK? Well, I forget what it was with him. It was
It might have
something.
been LASIK for Eddie Rosario.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was early in the season last year, and he was out.
Maybe
for a couple
Eddie
months.
Escobar needs it.
Yeah, yeah. Who knows?
There we go. We got a question about my hair from unrelated question. Love that. I mean, I got nothing in it right now. Like, just it's wet. That's why I keep adjusting it, because when it's wet, it's super thick, so it like will fall over my face. But nothing in it right now. I just use conditioner. I don't ever use gel either. No gel, no mousse. Just when I want to hold it in place a little bit, I use this like post shower conditioner. It smells like peppermint. It's got castor oil in it, and it's great. Yeah. Am I a little fruity? Sure. But does it work? Absolutely.
Hey, who isn't a little fruity? You know, how you
We're all
doing?
a little fruity on the inside. He was the fruitiest as wreck, and he's not even here to defend himself.
That's
why I said it.
That's a very good point. Andy with a comment here says, "Hey Wardy, what's the name of the new podcast since Believe in Queens is done? It is Mets podcast right now. We hopefully by next
We'll have a name
week.
next week. We're close to something.
Yeah, we're close. We're close. We'll say that right now. Also, Alex Cohen, great member here. Thank you so much for the comment. Says, as much as it would be painful to see, do you guys think they send down Yorme because he has an option? Escobar would be the backup shortstop, and then we can call up Beatty and plant him over at third base. I don't foresee that happening because I do think Yorme's defense and versatility in that infield is pivotal. I really do. And as much as I love him,
Escobar as the backup shortstop scares me.
Yeah, that scares you too. But more than anything, I know that you don't like this, Joe, because I do like what he provides. I 100% do believe Tim LeCastro will be sent down as soon as Beatty is up. Because
you watch your warm out.
I'm sorry.
Right? You watch your warm out.
Tell me what's a different scenario.
We keep LeCastro and his speedy Italian ass on the big league club. All right.
Okay. All right. So who's going down? What's happening? Is the bullpen? We're not going one less arm.
Someone on the IL. We'll say Vogelback. I don't know. We'll say like got cramps rounding second base. Like throw someone on the IL. Look, Mark Canha could use an IL for like fatigue or something.
All right.
Or just throw anyone on the IL.
Fuck it. Just throw me on the IL. I'll take it. I'll do it. Whatever needs to be done to get Brett Beatty on this team. But, Joe, I think now's a good time to cap off things. So I want to thank everyone so much that chimed into the live show. We greatly appreciate people that watched on replay. Thank you so much as well. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your biggest takeaway from the Mets taking 2 or 3 against the big bad Padres. And how are you feeling about this upcoming road trip out west in which Joe will be in LA and not freezing his ass off by having a great time. Right, Joe?
It's going to be kind of cold. Probably going to be a little chilly. But, it's all right. We'll be having a great time.
I hope you wear those mittens with just the tips of the fingies out.
Like the tips of the fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
right, guys.
Speaking of fruity.
That's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back after the Oakland A's series, most likely. So stay tuned for post-game shows all throughout, the weekend. Maybe not every single day because it's against the A's and I'm going out of town, but at least 1 or 2 out of that 3-game set. And once more, before I get out of here, do, of course, just want to remind you guys that myself will be on SNY's channel tomorrow, so make sure to check that out at Mets Off Day live. It's going to be on their YouTube channel, noon Eastern tomorrow, and we'll be on all their socials live as well, on Twitter, on Facebook, all that great stuff. So make sure to check it out. Thank you all so much in advance for the endless support, and go